just want you guys to know, this is a big deal for them to be here. We had dinner a few weeks ago, and Michael didn't even show up for a CFDA dinner. And if you don't know about the CFDA, that's like the mafia of fashion. So for him to show up here is a really, really special thing. So thank you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
The first question, you guys just went public. What'd you guys buy? I want to know that purchase. I mean, you guys have had money for a while, but like this is another level.
Nah, the first thing was probably after the IPO, we got a chance to regroup. We're always doing these trips for work and stuff, but we did like a Revolve around the world style trip with like 20, 25 of the homies, went to Ibiza and chilled. Felt like a work trip for me, but for everyone else, a lot of the family.
I like that.
Good.
Everyone got to enjoy the success.
Yeah, a lot of us are super, super close. So like, a lot of my executive team has literally become like, was first or has become some of like my closest friends on the planet. So
wow,
got to celebrate together, which is real nice.
That's amazing. Raisa?
I actually just called my parents like pretty immediately and was just like, you're solid for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What are your overhead expenses on a monthly? And you're good. And then I also bought a car.
That's awesome because I'll be honest, when the day you guys went public, CNBC had you guys on TV, and I was recording like a dad, like, oh my God, they went public. And it was like, honestly, for people in fashion in LA, it was a big moment for all of us. Yeah. Like, it felt like a win for all of us. Can you explain the process of going public, or what can you share? Like, how is it? How hard is it? Because, a lot of people, most of us probably will never go through that process, but I find it fascinating, so I'd love to kind of hear that experience.
Well, it was a super long process, actually. We started, maybe 18 months ago or so. Do a lot of work, get all your legal work done, all that kind of like the mechanical aspect of things. But the first thing that we usually do, or they usually do, is what they call testing the waters. So it's like mini roadshow, go meet with people like San Francisco, New York, Boston, whatever. But as we were getting ready to go public, that's when the tariff war really heated up. So we were supposed to go public around October. We had to pause it. So we really were just in limbo for months, just waiting it out.
Yeah, I remember you texting me. I was like, what's going on? He's like, it's paused. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, so it was real stressful, just waiting, trying to execute, trying to be patient. But then after we gear up, we have, a couple hundred pages of an S1, which takes, a lot of time and a lot of legal work. Try to make the best pitch deck of your lifetime.
Yeah.
And then hit the road. The road was, I think,
so hard.
Yeah, that was probably like, going to jump to something, that's probably the hardest thing business-wise we've ever done before.
Do these people, like when you go and talk to them about what you're doing and what you're building, do they get it? Like, I just feel like they have, my personal opinion, blank stares. I'm like, how are you guys doing this well? And how does this all make sense?
It's a real mix. A lot of people, as you guys talk about, a lot of people always try to think everything as a software company or as a tech company, trying to figure things out. So some people really do get it. Some people are kind of like trying to figure it out, but that's why you have to meet with so many people, find out the ones who do get it, the ones that do believe, and it was a challenge.
How did you feel, Raisa, probably being the only woman in most of the rooms?
Special. No, it was, I always thank Michael and Mike and for, allowing me and choosing me to go on the road. It's a once in a lifetime experience, like you were saying, and to be able to pitch, a business that I obviously am super invested in, super believe in, and then present, my life's work was a huge privilege. So, after like the first day where I was like, okay, it's just gonna be a bunch of like dudes, it actually became so easy. But yeah, it was
That's amazing. So, one of the things I keep reading on headlines is influencers are dead. That bubble has burst. And you guys were, in my opinion, the first people to scale influencer marketing into a profitable business. And when you see things like that, or you see Instagram may hide likes, or the algorithm is changing, and there's all these different platforms emerging, how are you going to spot, not the existing people, like how are you going to spot the next Sincerely Jules, the next Sangha Style, if all these things are changing in the landscape?
Well, we work with thousands and thousands of girls, influencers, and we really do keep tabs on anyone and everyone, and also understand that algorithms and engagement, et cetera, changes, and so there's different metrics that we look for so that we can spot the next Sincerely Jules and the next Song of Style. And I think we've done a pretty good job of doing that. I mean, there's even influencers that we worked with, for instance, who have more male followers, but we've seen over time that as they worked with Revolve, that shifted to more female followers. So really even, attracting a whole new set of influencers that maybe we would never worked with. But I think having such a wide cast and a wide network of influencers really allows us to spot the next, I guess, big thing.
And do you think if someone's starting today and they're trying to get your attention to be invited on those amazing trips, how do they do that? Obviously, they have to be a customer first, right? Like, it has to be an organic relationship. But, 5 years ago, social media, it was easy to be found. But today, I'm curious just for our own business, like, how do you find those people?
Well, again, going back to just like key metrics that we look for, whether that's engagement, male, female followers, even their top cities, top countries, all of these things are important. So everything that we do serves a purpose, and all the influencers that we work with is really there for a reason. And a lot of the influencers that we bring on these, amazing trips, they're truly there for a reason. They have, they can convert, they can drive traffic to the site. Obviously, they're super on brand. That's really, really important for us to keep the brand premium and elevated, is to work with influencers who share the exact same values as us in that way.
Yeah, one thing to summarize it is that there's, of course, the brand fit. We understand the people, we know them personally, we understand their vision, where they're going. But also there's a lot of data on the back end, both like Instagram data, externally collected data, software systems and such. So, Rice hates always asking for reports, always asking for numbers and whatnot. But that's pretty deep into our culture, and I think that's been crucial.
Are you guys looking at other social media platforms like TikTok or, is there any fly dressers on LinkedIn?
This one, the D. Murthy guy developing a following. I think that's Rice is going to send him some gifts.
I mean, there's so many different platforms all the time. TikTok, obviously, studying that, and I know there's a lot of beauty brands that are finding success. But again, I think because we work with so many influencers, they're really the ones that we look to. If they're like switching platforms or they're starting new platforms, we can, ask them, like, how is this working for you? Are your fans converting and going to that platform? So that's been really key too, to figure out what's next for us is working with the influencers directly to see where their fan base are going.
Yeah, I think for us it's really the influencer relationship versus the platform. We've seen when Snapchat rose, people were experimenting. We also instantly saw when everyone abandoned Snapchat. We knew that, okay, this is where we're going to.
Got it. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, or a lot of people that work in creative professions. If you're starting a fashion brand, I'd love to hear both your answers. Where's the opportunity in fashion today?
Men's subscription websites.
We don't need any more competition. Please don't start one. But some people say sustainable fabrics, that's an opportunity. Or I think men's is generally underserved. But where do you guys see the opportunities?
I definitely think sustainability, I know it's feels like an overused word, or everyone is kind of talking about it, but there is a ton of opportunity. I mean, especially in women's, I don't think there's a brand out there that's capturing the, really cool millennial customer. I know Reformation obviously is a brand that I love and look up to, but it doesn't feel super scalable. So I feel like for sure there. I still think in beauty, even though, again, people are like, it's so saturated, I just think there's no rules now when starting a brand, and as scary as that sounds, it's also very, very exciting. Yeah. You can just kind of come off right off the bat and establish who you are and what you're about, and I think that's super duper cool.
I agree with you, men's as well. You see that, with the women's zone, we see lots of brands, a lot of interesting all across the board. On the men's zone, like the fire brands are only a handful, and it's very, very tight. I think that could ultimately develop long term.
Absolutely. And So this is because I'm just curious. For you guys have been in fashion for so long, what are each of your most prized fashion possessions? Like you'd be like, damn, I can't believe I lost this.
Oh man.
So mine, we sell a lot of stuff, so we have a lot of stuff, I guess. But for me, Mike and Mary gave me this Python leather jacket when we was first starting, when we first picked up the brand
I've
years
seen it.
ago.
It's
yeah,
fire.
and it was, I don't know how many he made, like a very very handful. He just sent me one, and it's beautiful. I wear it for years. It's like the most worn-in Python jacket ever. Like, yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, I guess I have I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge avid vintage collector, and so I have so much good vintage
Yeah.
that I would love to pass down to my daughter. And then I also have a watch that actually Michael gave me that I don't like to roll around with because I'm just like, I'm going to mess up this watch super hard. But I'm super thankful that you got that for me.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. The thing with Michael, also forgot to mention, is that Mike's one of us. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
seeing Mike successful on that big luxury scale, coming from LA, hustling like next to us.
Yeah, literally.
That's why that also means so much. We're all doing this together.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's an interesting take that you guys, you giving your backgrounds, most people in fashion and success that we all came up with didn't look like us. And always used to be, I don't know, I was really bitter when I was younger because I was like, I'd walk in, obviously there's not a lot of Indian people in the segment of fashion that we were in. And you guys have clearly made it to the top of the heap. But how did you guys handle those, like, that? Did you ever have that feeling? It was like, man, there's no one that looks like us when we're doing it. Because, like, I used to think it was a disadvantage. And then I used it as an advantage later in life. But, like, it's just interesting to hear you guys' perspective. Because when you think about even fashion today, when I look at CFDA and I look at, there's still nobody that looks like you guys.
I don't know, like, 100% agree with you. But I think our attitude was, we have each other, our team is really tight, that's all we really need. And I've heard you talk about times past where being young, looking for mentorship, no one's trying to help you,
Yeah.
You have to help yourself, and ultimately inspires us to help each other, which is why we're here today, and which is why we're all successful together, because it's a whole new generation for us. The doors are open, wide open, anything is possible, and I do like that chip on the shoulder, that fuck you, I don't want your award shit.
I mean, you didn't show up to that one award show. I was like, damn.
Yeah, and I think too, like even being from LA as a fashion brand, a lot of people always like talk shit about LA, right? Like, oh, it's so cheesy there and all this other stuff. And I think once we really owned it and said, you know what, we are from LA, everyone out here looks good, we're sexy, this is what we're about, and really, really own that. I think the business really, transformed because, most fashion brands are based in New York or Paris or whatever. So it's actually super cool being different and just embracing that and kind of running with it.
Absolutely. So on that same note, like, do you guys have people in fashion that you are inspired by or mentors that you've had in the industry? Or is this kind of like, we got to pave our own way?
There's people that you definitely look up to, but no one that we like literally know.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was really pave our own way. That's why, for this award, like, who can get someone to present it to you? Like, who's your mentor? I'm like, I don't know, Rice, you want to present it to me? I don't have no mentors, man. Like, no, but.
Yeah, do you think that's like I didn't really have mentors growing up either. Is that just, I mean, that's obviously changed now because a lot of these people here have mentors or we're mentoring a lot of people. Is that a shift? Like, why weren't people helping us? I always wondered that. Like, what the fuck was wrong with these people?
I'm scared, man. I'm scared. Also, man, we're old too, man. Pre-internet, it was really hard to connect with people. Now you can just hit up anyone, anytime. So I think that's definitely changed.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
sure.
What about you, Raisa?
I didn't really have any mentors either growing up. I think it was always just like, okay, I want to be successful. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to figure it out. And then now I'm here and I get to like work with Mike and Michael every single day, and they're like the smartest people that I know. So every time I'm in a meeting with them or just the opportunity, I'm constantly just listening because this is like the best school I could go to.
Absolutely.
Is just being in a room with the both of them and learning. And I get to do that every single day. I'm so lucky.
Absolutely. What about in terms of, this is a question that I always hear people talk about. And recently I was talking to two people much older than me, and I was like, so what do you think about work-life balance? He's like, what's that? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, there's no such thing. And I always used to think I had work-life balance, and then my wife's like, where's the balance? You do whatever you want. You work whenever you want. You're traveling all the time. And then, yes, you do spend time with us and the family, but the balance is towards work at this point in my life. Do you guys, I mean, you guys work so hard. You travel. You guys have, how do you, what's your theory on that? Like, is that possible at the stage of like growing your business, or is it like all or nothing?
It's probably different for both of us. For me, it's, a lot easier. Single guy, work, party balance. It's really, I do have a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom, but it's interesting that like the phase for me where you're just working like crazy as much as possible, and that mentality, I think that's crucial. Early in your business, no doubt, work as hard as fucking possible to the maximum. But at a point in the business, that extra hard work really isn't that beneficial. It becomes a trap. It becomes like a treadmill. You got to go. But then afterwards, like learning to work smart and really learning, thinking clearly and making good decisions is ultimately going to be the big thing. Not that extra day in the office, not skipping that trip and whatnot. It really took a lot of energy to develop that. So I can honestly say I work harder than ever. But I can also honestly say my time hours in the office is probably less than ever as well. So it helps with the travel, helps with things. Travel really helps to change your perspective, get time to think, and really just make sure you're at your best.
Yeah.
I mean, I get asked this question all the time because, I have a child, and it is really grueling. It's super hard to try to figure it all out. And I think I'm still figuring out. I think there's no like perfect way, because I do agree with you. Like sometimes if it's like all family, then it's like, okay, do I not have time to work and focus? Or even in the last year and a half, I realized that all of my energy really was going to work and Dylan, who's my daughter, versus maybe even investing some time in myself. So I think it's going to be a constant figuring out, and I don't think anyone has figured it out.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer, is that like we're all still figuring it out. Because I get asked that question all the time, and I'm like, I don't know.
Always changes too. Sometimes you really got to shift one way versus the other way. It's not like a one way, it's dynamic for sure.
Absolutely. So if you were to start a business today, not in fashion, what would you guys each start?
I didn't see this on the question list earlier. But
I'm kind of like still thinking through kind of what I want to be, because I still feel like I have a long way to go, even though I'm 37. I feel old. I'm like, I can just still do so much. I would love to invest in businesses and really utilize all the skill sets that I've learned in the last 12, 13 years and start and help young entrepreneurs and invest in different types of businesses, not just like obviously fashion or whatever. And then maybe I could be like a full-blown influencer with you.
Wow. Invite me on the trips.
For me, it's interesting because this business, we were never in fashion on purpose, and we see the opportunity, and of course it's been so personal. The brand, the way we present things is really our lives and our energy. So it's like, and it happens to be, a fashion product. When you wear good clothes, you're wearing your Reckless hoodie, if you're wearing your Revolve clothes, you feel a certain energy, you feel good, and you connect with people. So it would have to be something parallel to that, whether if it wasn't apparel, it could be some other aspect of a lifestyle life where you connect with the brand, you feel good, in some way it helps you, have a better approach and energy to life, and it would have to be something in that zone.
Got it. That's interesting. So what would you give your 21-year-old self advice? What advice would you give?
This kind of ties back to what you were saying earlier, but the 21-year-old self was like just obsessed with work. It'd be like work morning to night, hit the gym, come back, work till late night, nonstop, every weekend, whatnot, zero balance. And I would have, the one thing I would have learned, like, yeah, you could have more balance back then. You could invest more into, your social life. You can invest more into your family and whatnot and have that balance back then. I mean, maybe one of those, hours helped. But yeah, whether he's working 80 hours a week versus 90 hours a week, probably wouldn't have made a big difference over the long term. So that was one thing that took me a long, long, long time to learn for sure.
Yeah.
But it was crucial at this point for sure.
Absolutely.
I think my advice was also the same thing that gave me a lot of drive when I was younger was I was obsessed with making money. I was just like, you have to make as much money as possible. And like Kevion, I was like, I want to drive a 7 Series. Like literally, that was like the car I wanted to drive. I think it's Tupac, whatever. So I was just so obsessed with money, and that's all that I cared about. Which again, I think in retrospect was great because
got you where you are.
Yes, but just like there's more to life than just being so obsessed with making money and driving a nice car.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I think you guys do really well, so a lot of the people here are starting smaller companies, and I've spent a lot of time with you guys as a company and as a company culture, and one of the things you guys have successfully done that I feel like even I'm still learning how to do, as a company, have fun. And in this day and age of like just everyone hypersensitive and like, I'm afraid, I talk pretty reckless. I talk reckless on our podcast, but I would never talk like that in front of my staff. Because I just feel like, oh my God, I'm screwed. And I'm just curious because like you guys have such a, there's such a toe the line of like what you guys do. And you guys have done it so well for so many years. Like, how do you do that? Like, how should we be operating businesses in today's day and age? Like, with the era we live in right now?
I mean, it's challenging for sure, but I guess the way we approach it is just like treat every person well, keep it real, be authentic to yourself, take care of other people, they'll take care of you. So like, of course we have a large organization, I think 1,100 people or so, but it's like at the level and like the culture where like if someone is a little bit off, it trickles up very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, someone, the organization will identify when there's just weird energy and like the wrong type of focus and stuff. So it's a continual challenge, but just be a good person. It's it's harder.
Don't be a weirdo, man.
Come on, weirdo. But how do you handle it from a female's perspective?
I mean, I think Michael's right. First of all, at Revolve, I agree that the culture it's pretty cool, But I think it does start with Michael and Mike being entrepreneurs, work really hard, and also just super humble. I think that energy and that feeling is felt throughout the entire company. And then as a female, I just try to keep it real with myself. And we've been talking a lot about this, but I think for me, the moment where I felt I could really open up to my team and just kind of like let them know, like, hey, if I'm feeling stressed or things are happening that I feel comfortable sharing. I think sometimes being a vulnerable person, people mistake vulnerability as being weak, but I think it just means being open and honest and letting people know that it's okay to feel excited sometimes, but it's also fucking stressful sometimes, So I have, I think, a great team that understand that, and we have that great relationship because I try to just keep it real with them.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, I don't really have any more questions. You guys answered everything that I wanted. And honestly, these questions I selfishly asked for myself because I really look up to you guys.
Thank you.
And for me, who has such a big fucking ego, that's a big deal. We're honored for you guys to be here today. And
so much.
if you guys get a chance to hang out for a few minutes, we'd love.
Sure.
I'm sure people have questions for you guys. It's rare to get people like this, so if they'll listen to you, chat them up.
We'll be here. Come talk. Definitely.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.